Why I left Call of Duty. What's up everybody, Do-Rag back at it again with another video. Today I thought that I would take a step back and reflect, because with the new Call of Duty that just came out and actually looking really good, I thought that I would talk about why I left the series in the first place, because there was a time when I used to play it a lot. I mean, I used to buy almost every single Call of Duty game, excluding any portable or mobile titles, and yes, that includes the quote-unquote gimped versions of the numbered games. For those of you unaware, Activision used to release two versions of the same numbered game, often adding something underneath it to signify that this wasn't the same game as the one that's on the next generation of consoles. Seems kinda shady thinking about it now, but I still bought them. And you know, I would find it interesting that people would call these GIMP versions because they, to me, a child at the time, felt like these games were fully fledged games. Now, I don't know how these games would hold up if I decided to play them today, but back then, I thoroughly enjoyed them. I mean, I guess you could argue that the graphics on the PS2 were worse than the ones on the 360, PS3, and PC, but if history has taught me anything, it's not about the graphics, it's about how the game is. Graphics are great, but graphics aren't what make the game. You have to ask yourself when you play a game, was it good? Was it bad? What did I think about the previous Call of Duties? I liked those games, even though these specific versions were only playable on a specific console. But each game felt unique to me. It actually felt like they put a lot of effort and thought into the games that they were making and pumping out. You know, at the time, it felt like they actually gave a shit. And maybe they still do today, I don't know. I haven't played a Call of Duty in a while, and maybe we'll talk about that later. But back then, I had adopted the mentality of, I bought them, I played them, and I waited for the next one. That was my mentality going forward. I had officially become a loyal fan of the series, because they would sell me on every single ad that they had for each game. I would keep on buying each game until Call of Duty Ghost. You see, the thing with Call of Duty Ghost is that things began to get a little goofy.
And also added an AI system to it, so we have fish move out of the way when you get close to them. We've had dogs in Call of Duty before, but never like this. This is someone you care about.
Hi, doggy.
The marketing of the game really deterred me from trying to get it. At that point in time, I began to look through the reviews of these trusted website sources like IGN and GameSpot. These trusted and most credible reviewers were giving the game glowing reviews. Like this was the best Call of Duty that was ever conceived. I could quite literally hear them jerking off by playing this game, supposedly. At that point, I really didn't know any better, so I had my mind all set on picking up Ghost. But then I began to listen to people who were very critical of Call of Duty Ghost. These guys were outsiders, people who didn't get those exclusive interviews that IGN, GameSpot, and all those other ones would get. These are the type of guys that would judge Call of Duty by its previous iteration. Individuals that had a lot to say about the game that the quote-unquote trusted media sites neglected to say, most likely because they were getting paid to glorify the game by the industry. So trusted of you. Those individual critical outsiders had a lot of words to say, and it really opened my eyes and made me rethink even harder about the kind of situation the Call of Duty series was really in. You see, the people behind Call of Duty essentially made a quota for themselves to have a new Call of Duty game come out every year. Just to be clear, I don't know if it's the developers that thought that was a good idea or if it was the publishers or whoever, but it's pretty obvious that there is going to be a lot of glaring problems with this quota, and a lot of those outsider critics that I mentioned earlier made their voices clear. I was seeing words to describe the Call of Duty series getting thrown around like dull, stale, repetitive, uninspiring, rehashed. Hey guys, we've got another Nuketown map to show you. Whoa, I like the Nuketown map for the first 50 millionth times. I mean, it's not a bad thing to reuse maps because I'm sure a lot of people find it nostalgic, but at this point, Call of Duty Ghost is like the 10th game in the series, and a majority of the maps that they're using are from the previous games. It kind of gets stale. I mean, they could do what they want with their game, but again, majority of the maps that they have for each game is recycled from previous Call of Duty games. And yes, these maps date back a while, so even though you've never seen those maps before, they might have actually come from a really old Call of Duty game. So after hearing what a lot of these critical individual YouTubers were saying, I sided with them and chose to pick up the game anyway. Like a dumbass, I bought it because there really wasn't an alternative. When it comes to multiplayer shooters on consoles, you're really limited. Like on Xbox, there was only like Halo, Gears, Call of Duty, Battlefield, and Call of Duty was mostly my shtick because you're just gonna buy it anyway, am I right? I really hated that I picked up that game because I ended up not liking it like at all. And honestly, that would mark the end of me actually buying a Call of Duty game, at least not for a while. Because at that point, I switched over to PC because one of my buddies was like, hey man, PC is just better than consoles. And I'm just like, nuh-uh, PC's too complicated. But then my buddy freaking convinced me and he was like, dude, there's gonna be a lot more shooters on PC if you decide to get that. And so I got a PC and I've actually been a lot happier than I have been on console. So yeah, switching over to PC has really opened up the doors for me to new shooters that I couldn't play on console, like Ready or Not, Ground Branch, Squad, Hell Let Loose, Postscriptum, Escape from Tarkov, PlanetSide, etc, etc. So I didn't need Call of Duty to be that central point anymore, especially when all of these games require that you're more methodical when you approach their gameplay. With Call of Duty, it was more run and gun, sometimes camping, and it's been like that ever since the multiplayer started out. Like, that's really been it. And I haven't really touched a Call of Duty since then. At this point, I would hear some news that Call of Duty picked up something called microtransactions, you know, loot boxes, you know, just pay to win mechanics. And I'm like, oh well, I'm glad I got away from that series. Now eventually I did come back to Call of Duty. I skipped over Advanced Warfare, Black Ops 3, Modern Warfare Remastered, and Infinite Warfare to get to World War II. I heard that some of those games had jetpacks, and I heard that they weren't as good as Titanfall's. From what I understood, this was the game that was going to bring people back. This was the game that was supposed to be them going back to their roots. So I was understandably excited because I wanted to play more World War II Call of Duty games. I really loved the idea of bringing a World War II game into the modern era because I really wanted to see how they would do it. But maybe I placed a little too much confidence into the developers' abilities because this game kind of felt like a slap in the face to me. Like when I started up the campaign, I thought that seeing the cutscene in the beginning where you're inside one of those drop ships and getting off, I was running up the beach and then I kill a German and I pick up his weapon and he's holding a PP shot. Like, what the fuck is this doing here? I mean, I'm not a historian, but I think Germans in the West didn't use Russian submachine guns, unless I'm mistaken. You guys want to let me know down below. So the campaign went about as good as this clip from Angry Joe.
I am so sick of your overblown bullshit.
Over the top and unrealistic. So I tried out the multiplayer and it was, it just felt like the same old Call of Duty. Like as if nothing really changed, even though I was using World War II weapons. What was up with the cosmetics? Like I saw freaking black ladies in Nazi uniforms. Like I ain't no historian, but that doesn't look right. I mean, why would you make a World War II game if you're not going to actually make a World War II? Like if it had said World War II alternative, then maybe I would have been like, alright, whatever. Like the cosmetics to me wasn't a big deal, but it just like felt like it was misleading. Like you could do cosmetics, but have them make sense. There's plenty of uniform variation for each faction. Like if you want to have women, fine. Let's get the French Resistance or Russian women. I mean, as long as it makes sense, then I'd be like, okay, fine. I could do that. I could work with this. But I mean, for the most part, the cosmetics really didn't bother me that much to like, quit the game. But one thing that did bother me was this right here.
Holy Jesus. What is that? What the fuck is that?
Okay, I'm done. I'm done with that. Alright, pack it up, let's go home. I began to realize that this was not going to be something nostalgic for me. This would mark the last time that I had actually bought a Call of Duty game. And then around the time that Call of Duty 4 came out, it's like, oh, they have a Battle Royale? Remember what almost every company wanted to be like Call of Duty? and now it's like the shoe's on the other foot. Like Call of Duty is trying to be like another franchise. It's like that one saying, you either die a hero or live long enough to see yourself become the villain. It's like Call of Duty used to be really good, but then they became way more predatory. And I don't know if that's I'm pretty goddamn sure it's because of the publisher, but I don't know, it's just me. But to see a franchise that I once loved become so evil is just, it's heartbreaking. You know, so with the new Call of Duty coming out and actually looking good, I don't know if I'm actually gonna pick it up or not, because when I saw some multiplayer, I saw that they were using rehashed maps, and also I'm hearing that there's actually pay-to-win mechanics. I don't know if I'm gonna pick it up, honestly. I mean, honestly, it's probably not gonna matter what I think, because Call of Duty is probably just gonna be in the top 10 somewhere. Like, they're probably gonna sell out a shit ton of copies because there's a bunch of dumbasses like me that'll buy just every single Call of Duty game that's ever been known. But, you know, what are you gonna do? Sure, I could talk about it, but who's gonna listen, right? And that's why I probably won't be picking up another Call of Duty game. Oh, I also asked on my previous video, and not a lot of the people that comment in my comment section didn't seem to want to pick it up either. But then again, these are people that are tactical gamers. They're not really into the arcadey stuff, so I could understand that. But yeah, is there a reason why you're gonna get it or you're not gonna get it? Let me know down in the comments below. If you like this video, be sure to like it down below, subscribe to the channel, ding the bell, check me out on Patreon. Just send me $2 a month. Or if you really want to help out the channel, try my NordVPN link. And yeah, I want to thank everybody for coming out to watch, and I guess I'll catch you in the next one. Bye bye.